So David Dobrik stole your car?
He did. Well, I found out after the fact.
What do you mean?
He claimed the car as his own.
What?
Yes. So in fact, I when I first brought the car in.
What was the car? What was the car?
It was a custom McLaren that I had made. So it was called the Iron McLaren. It was basically
Iron McLaren.
Yeah, I wanted to create this car that was like, what would Tony Stark drive? If Tony was like, I want to make the best car possible, what would that be? So I ended up working with McLaren and got this amazing car. There's only 6 of them that had ever been made, and to celebrate their Le Mans win. And so I ended up taking that, modifying that, making it a one of one, and it was called the Iron McLaren. So made it basically look like it was its own mark, like Iron Man armor.
Right, and David has an unhealthy obsession with Iron Man.
Which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know. And in fact, the guys that were ended up working on the car for me, the only reason I found out about it is that a friend of ours came over, my son's friend came over, and I showed her a picture of the car, and she's like, oh, that's David's car. And I'm like, what do you mean that's David's car? She's like, yeah, I saw it on Instagram or YouTube that was his car because it was his Iron Man car. And I had no idea that he'd even driven it or let alone posted about it and stuff like that. And so that I went over to the garage. I wanted to check it out. I get there and the wheels are just shredded. And you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars in wheels. The wheels are ripped apart because they'd been racing it. And
no.
Oh, yeah. So
David Dobrik stole your car, your Iron Man McLaren, the Iron McLaren, because he loves Iron Man so much. He was like, he saw the car in the shop. He's like, I need to drive this thing. Yeah. Took your car out, destroyed the wheels.
Well, at least he loved it. The only problem is like he redlined it. So when you redline a car like that, it's it's a challenge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be wagging its tail.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. Guys, welcome down to the Kessel Corner. Today we have entrepreneur, producer, record executive, Mike Bundlie. Mike, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Oh, and I forgot to mention
Thank you.
Well, you were an animator, you're a med school dropout. Yeah, I mean, what have you not done?
Yeah, way too many things, man.
Wow, I mean, I can't believe that David stole your car. What was this car for? Because it's, I know about your reactor a little bit. We're going to learn about that now, but it was for your project, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been going through my bucket list. My bucket list included working on a car. I had the good fortune to be able to work with some of the idols that I've had in the music world, and I've had the good fortune to work with Marvel. I'm a big comic book fan, and I really wanted to work on a car because car design, one of the hardest things in the world. Like it was something, just the lines of a car are so unique, and I give huge props to anybody who is an actual car designer. I don't consider myself a car designer, but I designed the look, the livery of this car, and it was. So I ended up making this car, and originally I was going to bring it over to a Comic-Con. Ultimately, though, timing didn't work out. I couldn't get it over because apparently when you try to ship your own car when you're overseas, LAX doesn't think that that you're the one actually trying to ship it when you're making a phone call saying, yes, send my car overseas. They thought I was trying to steal my own car.
I know, it happens to me all the time.
I know, exactly. So it ended up sitting at LAX. And anyway, so I came back and I was like, I'm a married guy with 2 kids. Like, I don't need this car as much as my kids wanted it. And so we ended up working on this new NFT called Reactor. And the NFT itself was this idea I had about, this is in 2021, so the NFTs were popping. One thing that hadn't been done before was taking and making, there was generative NFTs, like Bored Apes, where there's thousands of the different images and stuff like that.
Right.
Nobody had made a generative video at that time. And what that means is nobody had taken, and because it's hard, QuickTime videos, like you make one image and make 1,000 of them, fine. But if you're rendering out thousands of these videos, it's taking hours or days to render. So George and then the rest of my team ended up making this amazing code that basically was able to real time, basically turned into a video game. So it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that basically every time the game went to a new level, it would spit it out real time as being this new car. So we ended up creating 8,888 of these unique cars, everyone totally different. That NFT ended up doing very well, thankfully, and it sort of launched the Reactorverse.
That's incredible. So tell me more, like what exactly is Reactor?
So Reactor started with that NFT. That NFT, then part of the way that we put it out there, I had this idea like it'd be fun, because I didn't need the car, but the car was so special that I wanted it to go to somebody who really loved it. So with the Reactor, one person, as soon as we sold out that first NFT, one person who had bought a Reactor, so they buy the car, the NFT of the car, that car is theirs uniquely. But then we did this random drawing, and then one person ended up winning the McLaren. So they actually got it.
You gave it away?
Gave it away.
You should have just given it to David.
I know I should have. I totally should have.
Can you imagine David Dobrik posting about Reactor, free McLaren? Oh
Exactly.
my gosh. Well, it's never
we
too
actually
late.
did this thing where, because the idea was, it was right around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And so it did this thing that basically Santa was given his reindeers list, time off. So we did this video up at Mulholland where Santa was driving the McLaren. What I didn't know is, like, you actually there's a Santa union. You have to hire a union Santa. And then there's all these rules because they have to have a real beard. They have to be a certain weight. They have to have real belts. It's all these things. And so we had to hire union Santas under union time. The guy was awesome, but I just didn't realize it was like I was dealing with the Santa Mafia at that point.
Santa Mafia? Don't ruin Christmas for me.
No. He was great. However, and he was a good driver, but the problem was...
He drove the Iron McLaren?
Yeah. Barely fit in it. But he had this awesome video of him, like, throwing his sunglasses on, looking all badass. But we're up in Mulholland and driving around, and the cameraman, I remember at the time, dude was insane. We were talking about wanting to get this really cool shot where, like, the McLaren's coming around the corner, but being that it was my car and I was more experienced in the driving than Santa was, I ended up driving the car. So I'm coming around the turn going, above the speed limit at the time. And as I'm coming around, I see that he's sitting in the middle of the road, literally right in the middle. So I'm coming around and he's trying to get within 2 feet of me as I'm going around. And I was thankfully able to get right past him without smacking him. But the shot was awesome. And then we did, like, drone footage, and it was pretty cool.
Is Santa Claus union joining in your near future? Is that the goal? Like, you're racing Santa?
I am. I'll grow the beard out and actually for sure.
So you race
That'll
Santa.
be my ultimate retirement, is I'll become Santa.
I can't wait. Oh my God. I know that your kids would love that.
They would.
They would absolutely love that. Dude, you race Santa.
Yep.
You got the Iron McLaren that David Dobrik stole.
Yep. But then the thought was, like, all right, you have your cars, because normally with NFTs, like, what do? You throw them on a wall, right? That's cool, but it's not functional. So the idea was, why not let you race your car? So cool. Your car is different than my car. Nobody else can race your car. So we made this game where you could race me using your car. You could race for pink slips. You could race, but basically you're the only one in the world that can drive that car.
Wow.
So that game we put out into beta, and that's still being worked on right now. New versions coming out. And then we continued growing and growing. And so, for example, we launched the comic book, because when you do a video game, I know you like games. Love games. And we've talked stories and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter what it is. People get drawn into the characters, right? So it's cool to have all these cars, but the story and the characters are what matter. And so I had this idea that was like Tomb Raider meets Fast and Furious. Basically, this woman, Ava, who ends up, she grows up underneath this oil tycoon, and she decides that she doesn't want to do that anymore. She doesn't, want to follow in her dad's footsteps. So she sells off everything that she has, goes and tries to find all this green energy stuff around the world. Has her team, has Tang and Enzo, who are like these friends of hers. Basically, they go around and they end up in Iceland. And in Iceland, they end up on this volcano where they find these crystals. And the crystals themselves, by accident, they find out when the crystals touch metal, they vibrate. And when they vibrate explosively.
Like vibranium.
Well, vibranium is the opposite, but yes, same idea. Well, because like vibranium, I think everything should be based on science. So what I didn't know at the time, though, was that all the science we were coming up with at the time was something that was going to become real. So you flash forward, and the reason, that they were in the storyline in 2021, the reason that they were there was because the volcano, erupted, that they were going to grab power from the earth, from the thermal energy of the earth. That then they find these crystals that then vibrate. Anyway, flash forward now, next year and in this year, Iceland is actually doing their first thermal energy from the volcano, because they've had so many volcano eruptions. So the community the whole time is reading about the actual Iceland volcano eruption, thinking that we're like telling the future at the time when we're writing this story.
What?
Now, and crystals actually do vibrate. I mean, everything vibrates. And so the crystal vibration actually gives off energy. And so all of this stuff has at least a somewhat pseudoscientific reality to it.
Of course.
And that's the fun part about it.
That's so cool. And that's why they say you should talk to the crystals, because they actually bounce back a vibration. And that's why like amethyst is for healing and tiger eyes for blah, blah, blah. That's incredible, man.
So every car is different based on the type. So the main crystal is this big, beautiful white crystal. But when it breaks apart, of course, it breaks up into all these different colors. And so every color, every car has different colors and really beautiful because of that. And I got to say that the community that got in on this, it's a community of comic book lovers and collectors and racing, car lovers. Like there's people, this is the only NFT they've ever bought, was because of this. And like I felt a lot of, responsibility. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm caretaking this thing.
You're dad of this entire incredible community that you've built yourself. Make sure you guys download Reactorverse right now. You can race cars in it. There's NFT with it. There's a whole community.
Watching this group come together on Discord. Like I didn't know anything about Discord at the time. I didn't know anything about that community. And so, but watching this group that was like, there were car guys that didn't know really much anything about the NFT world, with merging with these NFT guys who were really into tech, merging with these comic book guys, and watching them all talk and chat and stuff like that was awesome. And they would argue about what were the best cars. Some of them like old muscle cars. Some of them liked the McLaren and like the newer cars. And yeah, it was really cool to watch. So every week I talked to them, but then the story kept going on, and basically, as she discovers this crystal, she makes these reactors. The reactors then power the cars. So it's like it's an electric car without any, without any fossil, without any, carbon footprint, without anything. It's awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. And so, why the name Reactor? Because this is like this is similar almost to Iron Man, right?
Yeah, so it definitely harkens back. It was inspired by that at the beginning, and so it's unique from Iron Man. Iron Man had an arc reactor that was part of what powered him, and there was something that just sparked in me that I really liked. That idea, this idea of something that was an eternally perpetual power source, right? It's something we're always looking for. I mean, Tesla has electric cars, Lucid has electric cars, like everybody has electric cars now. But what if you could have something that just internalized all that? So you didn't have to plug it in. Basically, just in nature, you could produce it without wrecking fossil fuels. And so that created React. In fact, this shirt isn't out yet, but it actually has a little Reactorverse on the side. So the Reactorverse is like the whole thing. But I got you one.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Here.
Oh, heck yeah. I love it. I'm going to throw it over my shirt. Sexy. I love it. Oh, yeah.
I was going to get you the Daisy Duke crop top, but
we can always crop it.
We will. We just get scissors. We'll cut it off now.
Absolutely. So after the game, what exactly happens? I know, right? I'm stylish. What happens with Reactor? Like, there's a token and ways to access it?
We actually launched in November. We launched the token, and token is it started off as a meme token.
So it's a crypto.
Yeah. And but except it's a utility token now. So meaning when you have that token, you have the Reactor tokens, RCTR. So you have the Reactor token. That token you can use actually to buy into the racing competitions, and you can earn tokens in the racing competitions. You can, wager with your friends against who's going to, win the race. You can
hold on, wait. You're telling me that you got Mario Kart for real money?
Real money. Well, for real tokens, exactly.
For tokens.
But
I mean, you can cash them out though.
Yeah,
eventually.
You can turn them into a currency. Sure.
So you can play Mario Kart by playing Reactor. You can play Mario Kart with actual crypto.
Yep.
The token of Reactor. What's each token called? Is it called a reaction?
No, Reactor.
Okay,
it's
Reactor
just token. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the first game that's coming out is the augmented reality one, where you can go and you can be sitting at Hard Rock Cafe or wherever your favorite restaurant, and you and I can drag race against each other.
Yeah.
And whoever wins, then we'll get the tokens. And then when the console game, so the console game is being tested right now, but when the console game comes out, then everybody can.
Console isn't like PS5.
Well, it's being done on a PC first, so like computer desktops, and then as soon as we're able to, we'll be porting it over to Steam and then to the consoles.
That is so cool.
Yeah. No,
so
it's really fun.
another reason to go get Reactor right now.
No, this is yeah. I appreciate it. No, it's on the Solana the blockchain right now. So it's
cool.
But it's meaning there's no gas fees and stuff like that. It's really easy to do. But the most exciting thing for us is what's happening. We announced it briefly in March. The movie is going to be coming out. So we have this incredible, yes. So Abstract Entertainment, all of
movie, video game, token,
comic,
NFT, comic.
Yep.
Dude.
That's why it's called the Reactorverse, right? It's everything.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
So Abstract Entertainment with Barry Levine, my partner, is the movie company putting this out. And in fact, Abstract Comics is what's putting out the comic book. And so this is all within that world. And the movie is going to be directed by this guy, incredible director named Pierre Morel. Did you see Taken?
Yeah, of course.
Or Transporter 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. So
what?
Incredible. You know what's great with him is that he does these crazy high-speed, high-action movies, but you still care about the characters. And that's really important, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like Fast and Furious, what you love, yes, you love the racing scenes, but without the characters, nobody cares.
Of course.
So that's we're really excited about that.
That is so amazing. When can we expect that to come out?
The script just finished, and so we're going to be starting casting and stuff like that later on this year.
Wow.
So hopefully, fingers crossed by next year.
That's incredible, man. Congratulations.
Thank you,
what
brother.
a huge undertaking. Again, this is just one facet of Mike, which is why I'm having you on this show, man. I can't believe. So we got to talk about, like, I've seen your comic book collections.
Yeah.
I keep saying the word like. Can we get a like counter on the screen too? I'm so sorry.
Like.
Okay.
We'll race for tokens.
Yeah, I know, right? How did you get into comic collecting, and what is your most expensive comic book that you've ever owned? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, I got into comics. I mean, as a kid, I had trouble reading. No, I didn't have trouble reading.
Me too.
But no, I loved my drawing when I was a kid. Like when I was little, 2-3 years old, I naturally picked up a pen, and so I was drawing characters, started drawing everything I could find. I wish we had Pokemon back then because the characters and stuff like that would have been awesome. I was drawing like Donald Duck and stuff.
Oh, so cool.
But with comic books were this amazing world where you actually got to feel like an adult, right? Because the subject matter, your parents would see them as something that was for kids, but you're reading about extremely adult material.
Totally.
Like, these relationships and people cheating on each other and people dying and
very adult subject matters for sure.
Whether it was Black Cat and Spider-Man, which was a very adult relationship in the comic books, or Iron Man's drinking problem. Like, these were all serious things, and I knew I really wanted to. I thought at the time I wanted to be a comic book artist or an animator. I still think animators are the best artists on the planet because.
And you animated. You worked on the animation for the SpongeBob movie, right?
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate to be able to work on a lot of animation. And when I first started the company, my partner at the time then. But wanted to do animation as well. He's actually been at DreamWorks now for the last 20 years.
Wow.
And when we parted ways, we ended up starting Abstract, and Abstract also does animation as well. With comic books, it was because we were doing Comic-Cons, and so was fortunate enough to be able to do Comic-Cons in countries all over the world.
So you loved comic books so much that you were like, you know what? I'm going to start my own Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And you've been all over the world with it, right? You were in Saudi Arabia. You've been in Monaco with it.
Yeah, and in Thailand. And
what's the name of the Comic-Con?
It varies depending on the place. So, like in the case of Saudi Arabia, we did the Stan Lee Comic-Con. It was the Stan Lee SuperCon.
Did you know Stan Lee?
I met Stan a couple times and actually got to be in the recording studio with him. I worked on the Stan Lee Super 7 back at Deke Entertainment doing the original animation for that. And Stan was such a sweetheart. So I wish I had gotten to do more with him, but he was amazing.
Gosh. That's incredible.
But yeah, with the comics, like here's the thing: it doesn't matter where you are, right? Around the world, and the reason Comic-Cons are so cool is that when you get there, it's all about pop culture. It's not just comic books, right? It's everything. But you see this even on the street down here. You see these kids. Like there's these two kids from Brazil on the street here, and they're staring at this guy that's obviously not Spider-Man to an adult, right? But you see their eyes, and it's huge. And when my son was little, my kids were little, I'd bring them to Comic-Con, and the point at the Comic-Con was to walk around and find where the real superheroes were and which ones were fake. And so some of the janky costumes. You've been to Comic-Con,
of course.
Some of the
I've also been to Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, and some of the costumes are just so janky that obviously it's not them. But it was fun for the kids to be able to see this and be able to understand. So comics bring everybody together in a way that's very unique. And comics can bring out, you can take a 50-year-old guy and make him feel like he's 8 years old again. And you can have an 8-year-old who feels like the world is possible. And like, they don't see what country you're from. They don't see what language you speak. They just know that this is a hero, and it brings out potentially the best in people. And so Comic-Cons for me are about that, about trying to bring culture and people together in ways that go beyond language.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, but for comics, I mean, Spider-Man, comics, Wolverine has always been my favorite character.
Really? That's Rod's favorite.
Is it really?
Man, he has a whole podcast about X-Men. You guys should go check it out. We can link it right here.
All right, we'll definitely have that conversation.
I was a Storm kid.
Oh, yeah, really?
Your most expensive comic, most money you've ever spent on a comic book. How about that?
Spent is different than value. I mean, part of being a comic collector is you try not to spend so much money that, it's, well, I mean, in reality, because, you want to try to get the best deal no matter what.
Right.
Because the point for the comics is that those comics then tour around and kids get to see them. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of kids don't know that Scarlet Witch started off being green, or that Hulk started off being gray. So you see these kids come up and they're confused. Daredevil was yellow.
Daredevil was yellow.
Yeah. So it's very confusing, but it's important too for kids to see these comics and understand that these stories existed 30, 40, 50, 80 years ago.
And they were test trials. They were
right, but even the stories you see in the movies now were based on comic books from 40 years ago. And so, for these writers, I mean, these writers were unsung heroes, right?
Absolutely.
Because their stories are getting adapted today and people think it's all brand new. But probably there's an Amazing Spider-Man #1 that we have, and that comic is a 9.4.
Okay.
And there's only 4 of those in the world right now. So it's
at a 9.4. There's nothing higher than that?
No, there is a 9.8. And that one is
to-do list.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's a combination, because for me, it's not about trying to say I have the one most expensive comic. It's about I wanted to represent the first appearance of each of these superheroes, so that at the shows the kids can come up and see them.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
So yes, you want the best grades possible because you want people to see the best version possible.
Right.
But it's also it is fun when you're my kids at the Comic-Con in Saudi Arabia got to hold a Superman #1 that was it's funny at the time. At the time, it was being sold for about $6 million there. And I remember my kid, and to the owner, by the way, if you're watching this, kudos on you, because he let my 10-year-old kid carry it to the stage. And
wow, that's
so
some cojones on that guy.
Yeah. And
he's like,
really, really proud of him for allowing that to happen.
Can you imagine how much that guy is worth?
Well, but what's funny is, at the time, people were like, "Oh, $6 million, blah 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 blah." That comic just sold for $12 million. So it's like, in 4 years, in a $6 million profit, that's a way better thing to do. And people
definitely,
the market is down for everything right now, collectibles wise. But it goes back up.
It's a good time to buy.
It's a good time to buy.
Buy some watches, buy some trading cards, buy some comic books.
Yeah,
but you never.
By the way, I'll make sure you're one of the first to see the Reactor watch when it comes out.
Yes. Oh, I love watches. We have a watch company together. How many comic books are in your collection?
It's funny. If it was up to my wife, it'd be 50.
Okay.
But it's significantly more than that.
Yeah, 50's not enough. Come on.
You know what? Everybody's got their things, right?
Exactly.
She likes certain things. I like certain things, and it's all good.
She gets diamonds. You get comic books.
You know what? I will say she does not like diamonds.
Really?
No. In fact, when I met her, she hadn't even owned a diamond.
Anna doesn't like diamonds either.
Yeah, no. But what's funny is the more expensive jewelry that I get her, the faster she loses it. So, by the way, I'm just going to say in general, if this happens to you, then consider it a massive blessing to be able to have a wife who just ultimately doesn't care about. She cares more about music and our kids.
Yeah,
and I'm grateful for that.
Anna's the exact same way.
Oh, for sure, Anna's the best.
Anna's the best.
Big shout out to Anna.
Woo! We'll put a picture of her right here, like a genie lamp. Perfect. She doesn't really care for jewelry.
No.
And for our 3-year anniversary, she actually, because it's about to be our 3 year in like 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And she wants an album.
So she's put up with you for almost 3 years now.
I don't know how she's done it, but I'm so lucky.
I make monthly payments to her just as your friend.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
it's like, hey.
Payments will keep coming.
Thank you for dealing with my friend. Oh, man. No, I'm truly blessed. Anna in real life is just as bubbly, happy, and amazing as she is on camera. So,
No,
guys,
the two of you are such a lovely couple together.
thank you.
So,
Find yourselves an Anna, guys.
there it is. Find yourselves
they're
Anna.
out there.
Or a Denise.
Or a Denise. It takes time, but you'll find. How did you and your wife meet?
We actually met across the street from here.
No.
Yeah. So she was a songwriter, and she was doing a show in South Carolina, and ended up getting a record deal out here. She had doing some great country songwriting and stuff, getting a record deal. She comes out here, and back then there was no internet really, and so she comes out here, discovers that the record label has actually gone under. Just in the time that it took her to move,
like
from
a month, or a couple weeks.
They, because back then things like that happened, and so she comes and she didn't know what to do. She ends up, she's very entrepreneurial as well. And she starts this show called the Songwriter Studio, where basically you had to have a big award to be on the show. Cool. But all these amazing songwriters, ranging from like Silver Bells up to Livin' La Vida Loca, or Oops, I Did It Again, and they'd be on the show. And I went as an audience member and saw her on the show, and walked up afterwards, said that she was cute, and recommended that I help her with her website, and that was hey,
wow.
Tech game has to win out sometimes.
You seem like the guy who was in school where you'd always be like, I need help with my homework. Can you help me? And then they've ended up falling in love with you, and they realize how charming you were, and that's how you got Denise.
It was hard though, because I was younger than everybody, so because I had skipped.
Just a munchkin.
Yeah, and when it sounds great with this idea, you'll graduate early and stuff like that. At the same time, like if you're in 8th grade and you're 2 years shorter or 2 years younger than the girls, like you're basically at chest height, which I know sounds like a good idea, but no girl at that time's like going for the guy who's 2 years younger.
Tall guy.
Right, they're going for the older guys and stuff like that too. So it was harder being the younger one. At the same time, I got along with everybody, but it was just weird being slightly younger. And yeah, we did have some pretty epic study nights. My parents were great. We actually had a hot tub at the house. And so
math homework in the hot tub.
Guys, seriously.
Okay, you're learning from the expert right here. How to get a girl. Math homework in a hot tub. If your parents have a hot tub, just wait till they go out of town. Have your friends over. Mike's got you. You can thank Mike in like 10 years from now.
I guess you're welcome.
Yeah. How to pick up chicks with Mike Bundlie. That should just be the title of this episode.
No, I was very much in the friend zone for a lot of it. That's too. Okay. It was because ultimately, like I don't know, I like being friends. I still like being friends with people. Yeah. So that's why we waited so long to get married. Like, I mean, you guys are babies. And stuff like that. I mean, my birthday is coming up, and
I'm a very hairy baby.
I'm hitting the big 50 in 2 weeks.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It's gonna be so much fun. We gotta do something huge for that.
Yeah,
Mike and I we've been besties.
Yeah.
For the past 3 years. It's our 3-year anniversary too, actually.
That is. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. What are you getting me?
Comic book. Mike has expensive taste. We're always drawn to art, that you wanted to be an animator. But how did you get from there to animating the movie for SpongeBob?
Well, I mean, I just worked on the SpongeBob movie. There was many people that actually were much more important than I was. I mean, I helped in terms of the design elements of it. The knowledge of medicine is so cool. Like I have 2 little boys, and they break themselves all the time. I mean, they doing flips into rocks, smacking and running into walls. Like,
I remember your older son broke his neck doing gymnastics.
Yeah. Well, and gymnastics is awesome, by the way. I recommend it for everybody. But as a little kid, I mean, it's scary as a parent, and like when you're having to put staples into your kid's head and stuff like that. It's not. Oh man. But ultimately, I loved. I loved medicine, but the business is hard. It's just a very different, because you're pushed and pushed and pushed to publish. It's not fun.
Yeah, and you're facing death all the time, right? And
so I loved getting the knowledge, but ultimately, actually, a friend of mine had gone from being a stockbroker to being a choreographer. And I thought, if anybody knows what it's like to do, it's him. And he ultimately said he would rather be poor and happy than rich and miserable. And so I had to make what was going to make me happy. And art was going to make me happy. And so then I switched and and did that and started my design company.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And what was your big break where you were like, I know I can do this. I can do anything I put my mind to. Like, what was the big project? Because I know you had an app come out when the iPhone first.
Yeah.
When the iPod Touch came out. Was that it?
You know what's funny? My very first client, the first thing that made me think that I could do something bigger was actually because there's a director and author named Clive Barker. And Clive was... He did Hellraiser, you know, the guy with all the pins on his face?
Yeah.
So that's Hellraiser. So I met him, and he had just been outed on a fan's website. And the internet was still very new, and yeah, exactly.
Holy cow.
But I ended up doing clivebarker.com and, helping control that. And it was a fascinating thing. It was such a sweetheart. And here's a guy who not only had done everything that he wanted to do as an artist. It has great stories about how he basically fought against the rules of the studio, but he became, he did his paintings, and he was an author, and that was inspiring to me. So I started my own company, and then flash forward, I brought the company to Los Angeles from Minnesota, and then we had done this app so my wife and I could have a candle in our hotel room, just a silly little candle.
On the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Free, just a candle. It was a free candle.
Yeah.
But there were ads, and you could buy different kinds of candles. Anyway, we're in the UK. We're in Scotland because my wife's Scottish, and we see that Steve Jobs has passed away. So quick shout out to Steve. And we see on the BBC that everyone around the world is holding up their phones with their candle. And we're like, I recognize that. Next thing you know, we go check on the on the stats,
the downloads,
and it's gone number 1 in 30 countries, and it's just become this phenomenal thing. Wow. So it's just a stupid lucky thing, and then that sort of kicked off the let's change and focus on the things that really matter to us. Let's put the bucket list together.
Isn't it funny how it's always the thing that you would least expect, where you're like, I'm not going to put too much effort into this.
Yeah,
It's fun, it's cool. If it does well, cool. But it's just for fun. I'm not expecting anything out of it. That's how I started with my own videos too, where I was like, all I had was a stale marshmallow in a mug.
You're right.
To get my start on social media. I said, if this goes in, I'll get a tattoo of SpongeBob. Bounce on the ground, bounce into the mug, and then there's the tattoo of SpongeBob. I did not know that.
Is that how you got that?
That's how I got that.
That's funny. I thought your first was the milk carton, or was that
no? That was after.
Really?
That was after. Yeah, that was
I'm gonna have to go hunt this down now.
I know
the marshmallow one.
It's one of my first videos ever. That was my first viral series. If this goes in, everybody was like, "You're the CEO of if this goes in." Okay, let's keep pivoting. And it seems like that's what you did too. Where as an entrepreneur, it's like you start with something, and it's something you never expected to work.
Yeah.
And it just soars into the stratosphere, and then you get to really pivot into what you want to do and
I
focus
think creatively,
on.
Though, that's part of it, because it's about the energy, right? If you're stressing, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, if you're doing because I want to be rich, I want to succeed, the energy's wrong. It's not right. But if you're doing it because you're passionate and you love it, and because it's the right thing to do, then the universe actually follows along with that. Absolutely. And I think love is the same way too. I think my friends that are looking for, it's like it's never when you're looking for it. It literally is when you just basically get blindsided, and you look up and you're like, oh, and then you obviously have to work to keep it going. But but that first discovery, happens when you're in the right space for it. So,
absolutely. I love that, man.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I will throw a marshmallow, and if I get it into the cup, we'll pick one of these, and if I get into the cup, then I will get a tattoo for you. We'll have to get...
We need a marshmallow.
We'll do a follow-up on that one.
Absolutely. We'll do
I'll get a Reactor tattoo.
Oh, I will hold you to that. Mm-hmm. You will hold him to that. Mike, real quick before we close out, I noticed that you have a little car next to you. What is that?
Oh, so this is...
It's not about size. Don't worry. It's about functionality.
This is actually a prototype that you and I are going to go race of the first remote control reactor car. So,
what?
Yeah.
Is it the McLaren?
It is. Well, no, actually, this is one of the actual cars that we designed for Reactor. So this is based on one of the actual Reactor cars.
Oh,
and the thing is just stupid fast. It's heavy here, Phil.
Oh my gosh, wow, this is solid. And it's a remote control?
Fully remote control, but it's a professional remote control car.
Can we put it on Hollywood Boulevard and put it underneath cars? And
but you know what? Let's get some LED lighting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and totally, let's do that.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so watch that. So, for the Reactor world, I've been telling them about us wanting to get out. And so we tested this against a Bugatti remote control car. It crushed it.
No.
But we have not done it in real world streets. So
are these going to be like in Target before we know it?
we're gonna either be private because they're all custom made.
Oh,
so,
they
so
are.
literally, you can if you own one of the cars,
Yeah.
you can have a car made of yours. Yeah.
That is so cool.
So this is literally the only one of this made. So
Mike, I feel like we're literally just hitting the surface and scratching the surface of everything that you're up to and everything that you are. It's been so awesome getting to have you on the show, man.
Thank you, man.
Make sure you go check out Reactorverse. Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
thank you, bro.
And we'll have you back on again very soon. We'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, everybody!